Hello and welcome to the 94th episode of Fur, Fins, and Feathers. Believe it or not, but winter is soon approaching, and we need to take care of our pets. Today our guest is Terry Cripps of Fairhaven, Massachusetts,
Correct.
who serves as the animal control officer in the beautiful town of Fairhaven. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You have a lot of important information to share.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Winter is coming.
Winter's coming, and we just talked off the air about like the elderly out there that are having to give up their pets because of not being able to feed them, and that's something that just shouldn't happen at all. If there are elderly out there and you're having trouble making ends meet, and you're having to choose between your food and your animal's food, please reach out to a local shelter, any local food pantries. Myself, I run the Fairhaven Animal Shelter as well, and we're constantly giving, we get an overabundance of food a lot, and we constantly give to local shelters, the senior center in Fairhaven. We give a lot to them. We give to the Shepherd's Pantry. It's just our local area, and I'm sure other shelters do the same thing. There's no sense in letting food go bad that we can't use when we can give it to shelters.
What types of animals do people need food for?
Cats and dogs mostly, but you have occasional birds. We get some once in a while. We'll get people who had a bird that passed away or something, and they'll donate the food. If we get an overabundance, we bring it. If we don't have any animals like that, we take the food and we give it to the local senior center. And but mainly the elderly have dogs and cats. Probably more cats than dogs, but the main thing is cats and dogs.
A lot of elders who are single pet owners experience difficulty in keeping the balance between taking care of their own personal needs and a pet. So it's important.
It is, and you see like a parent. A parent would rather go hungry than seeing their child starve or go hungry. And a lot of people, I know I'm the same way. I would rather my pets eat than myself. And but as you can see, I don't have that problem. But we a lot of elderly out there, they don't have like the resources to know where to reach out. They don't use the internet as much as the younger crew do. But just reach out, if they still have phone books, look on the phone book and find a local shelter, whether it be an animal shelter or a people shelter. We give a lot to the Shepherd's Pantry up in Cushnet. We probably, out of all of the food we get, we go through and we look if something's we're not going to use and it's going to go bad, we're definitely going to give it to some place that can use it, and we give it to Shepherd's Pantry and the senior center. So if there's elderly out there and you're having trouble making ends meet, please just reach out to a local shelter, a food pantry. A lot of food pantries do get pet food.
You
or to me. Call me at the Fairhaven Animal Shelter, and call your local shelter. I know I get calls from other shelters a lot of other like Forever Paws and the Humane Society in Dartmouth. They'll call me up and say, hey, we have an overabundance of dog food, cat food, stuff like that. What do you need? And if we can use it.
Swansea and Somerset.
Yeah, Swansea has one. Somerset. They have reach out to them and say, hey, can you spare a little food? Maybe it's not something they could do all the time, but like I was just today, we ran out of cat food in our shelter, and I took a picture of our empty bin, and I did that at about 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and I left the shelter at about 1:30, and no word of a lie, we had over 1,000 pounds of cat litter already delivered in a matter of a few hours, and we just used the power of social media. We ask on Facebook. I always wait till we have the last of something, like say laundry detergent. If we're on the last couple of gallons of laundry detergent, I'll ask the public, say, hey, we're running low on laundry detergent, and we get an overabundance of it. And that's stuff that doesn't go bad, so we try and hold on to that. But if somebody was really in need, absolutely, we're going to help them out. So if just reach out, and you'd be surprised at how many people will give if you just ask. If you just ask for help, don't give up your pet. And a few years ago we had a woman that showed up with her maybe 5 or 6 year old daughter, and they were going to surrender their dog because they couldn't afford to feed it. And I said, is that the only reason? If that's the only reason, I can help you. And so I gave her dog food because I would much rather have that dog not leave the family and upset the dog and the family. And then if we get them, then we have to have them. They would spend money on vet bills and everything else to get them updated with shots, neutered, spay. That's money that's going to come out of our pocket anyway. So I would rather give them donated food to help them out. And it's better for the family. It's better for us.
And it's a win-win situation?
It's a win-win situation. Win-win situation. So if anybody, please, don't give your pets up. If you truly can't afford the vet bills, that's a whole nother issue. Vet bills can be very expensive. Just as I was leaving, we just had a dog surrender because they couldn't afford the vet bills, and the dog was ill, and they can't afford the vet bills, and vet bills can be extremely expensive. And just spay and neuter a dog, you're talking $500, $600, $800, sometimes $1,000 just to spay and neuter a dog, and it's the cost of that is can be very
prohibitive.
Yeah, and
a lot of families can't afford that.
A lot of them can't afford it, and when some people they look at the adoption fees, why don't you just give them away? We have to keep our lights on. We have some people there's only 2 people in my place that draw a paycheck. The rest, I have about 30 volunteers that come in tirelessly and work and take care for the animals, and go home, and they get nothing for it. They get nothing at all for it. And so please, there's lots of resources out there. Don't give up your pet. Don't give up your pet. And there's spay and neuter programs out there. It's kind of tough to do. It sounds easier than what it is, but
got to work at it.
You got to work at it. There are spay and neuter programs out there, but it's not easy, and it's not like you have to find a vet that will take a voucher and you can receive from the state of Massachusetts, and you have to be able to find a vet that will take it, and there's not a lot that will take it because they don't get much money in return for it.
You bring up another important subject: volunteerism. Volunteers are the unsung heroes.
Absolutely. I literally could not run our shelter without our volunteers. We have about 30. We have a couple of programs in the area that have special needs adults, and they come in and they do our sweeping, our mopping and stuff and like that. It gives them a sense of belonging to our community and helping out. But we have about 20, 30 volunteers, and they come in all hours of the day, all hours of the night, and the work that they do it'll bring a tear to the eye just sitting there watching them do it. Tremendous, and they ask for nothing in return. And
I always used to write in my columns at the paper how important it was if they had an extra plate of cookies to bring it to your local animal shelter, or candy or something, and brighten the holidays of the volunteers.
Yeah. We try and do as much as we can for them, but of course, resources are limited. But they appreciate if we were to do something for them, but they really don't want it. They're there when they get to see a dog or a cat that comes in, and we've had dogs or cats that come in emaciated. We just had guinea pigs. We were talking about guinea pigs earlier. We had 5 guinea pigs that came in, had no fur. They were covered with mites. And my volunteers, we all worked together and treated for the mites and fed them. They hadn't had food in a long time. And we watched them grow and get their fur back, and watch them go home. And that's when they get to sit there and see an animal go from emaciation to adoption. That's all the pay.
It's rewarding, isn't it?
Very rewarding. Very rewarding when you get the real hard cases. Every once in a while you do get the 1-year-old Pomeranian or poodle, and it's very loving, and everybody wants it. Those are easy to place. Anybody could find a home for those. When you get the difficult ones that never doesn't, they don't know what it's like to be in a loving home, and they don't know how to respond to it sometimes. just very recently, I think you probably heard about it, the beagle case down there in Virginia. They had 4,000 beagles that were being used for experiments, and they pulled them out of that facility. And so many people were calling trying to get those beagles, but they don't realize those beagles were in a crate. You know, they don't know what it's like to sit in front of a fireplace with a loving family. They have no clue what that is. And you have to show them, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. They don't know, you know, when you're petting them, you're showing them affection. They don't know what it's like to have, you know, 2 good meals a day, and they don't know what that stuff is like.
They don't know a loving home.
No, they don't know what it is, and you have to show them, and it's a long road. When you get an animal that's been neglected and abused, it's a long road before they're sitting on your lap saying, you know, this is what life's all about.
Which brings up another important topic, and which prompted my original phone call to you. Talk about winter pet care.
Winter pet care. You know, they just passed a law a couple of years ago in Massachusetts, and it's a great law because, you know, you have a lot of people that they look at animals as a dog is something you just tie up outside and you bring it food twice a day. Make sure it has water here and there. But whenever there's an extreme weather conditions, whether it be too hot, too cold, you can't leave your dog out, especially from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. You can't leave your dog out for more than 15 minutes. You have to have them inside. And I've had many calls, you know, when the police will call me up and say, hey, there's a dog sitting outside and in the cold. When there was one cold snap that we had, and I had to respond to a house that had, and the guy was a truck driver, I believe, and he was away for 3 days and had his dogs tied up outside. And in that case, we seized the dogs and took them to the shelter that night, and it was, with the wind chill, I think it was like 10 below. And it was like 2 a.m. when one of the neighbors finally called and said that she heard dogs barking out there, and it's illegal. You can't do it. You can't do it, and you know, you can face serious fines and jail time too. Jail time too if it's becoming that serious.
And I bet a lot of people don't know that.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And I like to print out the law sometimes, and I go to people's homes and show them this is the law. There's a law, and that holds a lot of weight sometimes. Sometimes they don't want to. You know, they still stuck in their ways, we'll say, and you know, the dogs belong outside in the doghouse, not inside. You know, and you know, those days are gone. Those days are gone, and fewer people are trying to fight those laws, I'll say. So yeah, it can be.
But what are some good tips you could share about winter care?
You know, don't leave your dog outside. You know, it's don't leave your dog outside. And there's one probably, it's kind of a controversial thing with people with cats. You know, me, I keep my cats inside. Some people think cats belong indoor, outdoor, and I'd say 9 out of 10 cats that disappear when people call me, hey, have you seen my cat? 9 out of 10 are indoor, outdoor cats. You know, a lot of people think, oh, they belong outside. They belong outside, in, inside, outside. Keep your cat. No good can come from putting your cat outside. No good can come from it at all. Some people say, oh, well, it keeps the rodent population down. Yeah, it might do that. But what if your neighbor says, I want to keep my rodent population down. I'm going to put rat poison out, and the rat eats poison, and then runs into your yard. You know, and it's keep your cats inside. You know, I think people really need to treat their animals as they do their children. When I go to dogs and cars, and it's just as bad in the summer as in the winter. When you know, when it's 10 degrees out and people, I'm just going to leave my dog in the car while I go grocery shopping. Would you leave your child in there? No, you wouldn't. So don't leave your animal in there. And I face a lot of kickback with that. A lot of people get mad. You know, I was only in there for a minute. I was only in there. I said, no, well, actually, if somebody, you know, when you went inside, then somebody called, and then they called dispatch, and then dispatch called me, and then I was on the other side of town, and I got here, it was more than a couple of minutes. You know, it's probably like 20, 30 minutes, and that goes the same way with heat and cold. You know, you wouldn't leave your child in a cold car. Don't do it with your dog.
So people should, if they have a pet, like a dog, in and out quickly.
Yeah, well, let them do their business. You know, in some dogs, you know, like Great Pyrenees. If you ever heard of the Great Pyrenees, Huskies,
Oh, yeah.
they love the cold. They don't. If you put them inside, they're going to go as far away from that pellet stove or the fireplace as you can get. I literally people call animal control a lot when they see dogs outside, and when it's cold out. Don't when it's a Great Pyrenees or a Husky, they love that stuff. They thrive in that stuff.
They thrive on
They
that.
thrive in it. But if it's a little, a little poodle or a little Yorkie, you know, use just common sense. Common sense. Bring them inside. Let them do their business, and then bring them out. I mean, I have small dogs. We have to go out and shovel a path for them, and so they can go outside and do their
Little
business.
a sweater.
Yeah, a little sweater, but we'll go shovel a little area out for them so they don't sink in the snow. But yeah, just I treat them more like people than dogs. But you know, when there are exceptions when it comes to cold, like the Great Pyrenees, Huskies, dogs like that, like Saint Bernards, Burmese mountain dogs. They love that cold. They love to be out there in the snow.
Any tips for feeding in the winter?
Well, if you're going to have water outside, you know, and there are people who put their water outside. They have those little things that a lot of farmers use them, where you put the thing in, it keeps the water from freezing.
Yeah.
As far as feeding them, I mean, I'd say just feed them inside. Feed them inside, and this is New England. It can be, you know, 10 degrees one day and 50 the next in January. It's just, like I said, common sense. If it's too cold for you, it's too cold for your dog. Don't leave your dogs outside in the cold. And even when it's really cold, you know, be careful when you're taking them for long walks. Long walks, their pads can get cold too. And I know they have those little booties or something. I know a lot of dogs would like to keep them on there, but they have those little booties you can get for their dogs too. So
Dog owners should look for ice chips embedded in their paws.
Oh yeah, definitely, and use safe dog safe or animal safe ice melt too. You know, a lot of the ice melt is toxic to them, but they have the stuff that's not the stuff we get at the animal shelter. We use that in the wintertime, so so it's not toxic to the dogs.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm thinking some of the northern breeds love to be out in the cold.
Oh yeah. Like I said, if they have a lot of fur on them and they're big, they like being out there in the cold. You know, if you put a Great Pyrenees out in 10 degrees and 10-degree blizzard, they'll roll in the snow. They love it. If you bring them inside, they'll go as far away from any heat source because they don't want to be near it because their fur is so thick.
Very good. You've shared a lot of great information. Any other information about animals that we need? Now, I'm seeing a lot of deer in the area.
Yeah, wildlife.
A lot of deer in Swansea.
Oh yeah, we have them in Fairhaven too. There are deer pretty much everywhere. A lot of people are suggesting now this time of year taking their pumpkins and throwing them out into the woods so the deer and other wildlife can eat them. But this time of year, you know, we don't get a lot of wildlife calls. Technically, animal control officers are not legally supposed to touch wildlife. A lot of people don't know that, but we're not supposed to. But we are the first responders. And when we get the call that there's an injured deer, a deer versus car, we get those. We just had one the other night, a deer versus car. And if sometimes they can run off. They'll run off, and we get a lot of wildlife calls in the springtime when they're all doing their thing and the youngsters are out. Raccoons, we have fisher cats. Believe it or not, what's really making a big comeback are weasels and minks, and they're making a huge comeback in this area. And I think it really happened right around COVID when everyone was nobody's driving around, and their main predator is cars, you know, and when there wasn't a lot of cars in the area, a lot of cars on the road, gave them a chance to get their numbers up. And I've had going to weasels in houses, and weasel is in the weasel family, but there's the weasel, there's the ferret, and there's the fisher cat, and they're all in the same family. Fisher cats are very elusive. A lot of people.
And very frightening.
Oh yeah, they have their canines on them are probably about the size of a German Shepherd. They will get into a chicken coop and literally kill every chicken. When you see a weasel in your area, when you see them, a lot of people think they're ferrets. They're smaller than ferrets. Their head is kind of more pointy. They're the best animal to have in your area, besides for a possum, because they literally will kill mice, rats, and they'll kill them just to kill them. And even if they're not hungry, a weasel will kill a mouse and kill a rat and just leave it there. And so many people spend all this time, money, and energy on putting rat traps out around. If you have a weasel in your area, I wouldn't want them in my house, but if you have a weasel in your area and around your house, and maybe they set up camp under your shed or something, they'll keep all your rodent population down, because they go after them even when they're not hungry. Even possums. Possums are great to have in your area. They just constantly walk around at night and they eat ticks. They eat ticks and small bugs. And possums cannot get rabies. Very rarely, I'll say. Their body temperature only gets up to about 92. So, and rabies needs like 97, 98, like we are. And their body temperature doesn't get high enough to support rabies, so they can't get rabies. They're scary looking, but they're very docile. They're very docile. If you find a baby possum, most of the time they cling on the mother's back when they're walking around in the spring. And if they fall off, the mother really won't stop to go back and get their young. They just keep going because they're worried about the young that are still on their back. And they can have upwards of 12, 13, 14 babies. And not a lot of them make it. So possums are kind of interesting in the springtime when we do get a injured or a dead possum, like they got struck by a car. The first thing we do in the spring, all the way into the summer, is check their pouches, because they are marsupials. And I think they're the only marsupial in North America, I believe. I'm like the Cliff Clavin of animals, I guess. But always check their pouch to make sure there's no babies in there, and that's happened to me several times. You see the pouch moving, and you put on rubber gloves and you pull them out. First thing you do is keep them warm, and then get them to wildlife rehabbers. There's lots of wildlife rehabbers in the area. I have several that I depend on, that if I do get wildlife, and it's either go all the way out to the Cape, in the summertime, trying to get all the way out to the Cape for the Cape wildlife, you might as well write me off for the day, or find a local rehabber that will. And local rehabbers, they get trained, they get certified, and they're sometimes the hidden heroes in animal control, because we'd be lost without them. I have one that lives in Dartmouth, and she's taking more animals and rehabbed them for us than anyone I know. She's great, and she helped me out with birds. She doesn't do mammals so much, mainly birds, but you get a lot of injured birds, and most of the times when people see a young, like red-tailed hawk or falcon or anything like that, they immediately think that it's injured. No, the mother's up there watching, and they're just learning how to fly, and they're just they're jumping around the grass, and you see them, you just like leave them alone. Baby owls will come down, they'll run around the yard, then they'll climb back up in the tree, but they're just learning how to venture off.
They should be left alone.
Leave them alone. I always tell everyone, leave wildlife wild. I just had a case recently where someone rehabbed 2 squirrels, and they still had them a year later, and they were worried because they didn't want to let them go because they were afraid they weren't going to survive. They're wildlife. Their natural instincts will kick in. And a lot of people don't. They're heart. They're all heart. And they're not thinking with their head, thinking with their heart. How can we help this?
So pet owners should be observant.
Very observant, especially when I just mentioned wildlife. There's hawks out there. They will take a cat like that. They'll take a small animal like that. And fisher cats especially. They tend to, if you're around, they tend not to go after. They stay away from people. but small animals. I remember I just went to a conference and they were talking about the coyote population, and they put some radio tags on coyotes in Rhode Island, and they were noticing that they were conjugating in one area on one of the islands over there, and they found out there was a feral cat community, and the feral cats were breeding in there, and if you have a bunch of prey, predators will come, and that's why I tell people, a lot of people put bird feeders out, and that's fine, but don't put food out all the time for squirrels and other animals, because when you bring in the prey, the predators are going to come too, and it's easy pickings for them. When you have that much prey in an area, in somebody's yard, because
there were 2 large coyotes discovered in Swansea this morning.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. I live in the center of Fairhaven. I've gotten into my car in the morning and watched a coyote walk right by me like it was a dog. Their wildlife is not. We're taking more and more of their land, and they have a choice. They can go extinct, or they can learn to live with us, and they're learning to live with us. You'd be shocked at how many possums, squirrels, skunks live right in your yard. You'd be shocked to know. If you put one of those night cams that are motion activated, put one in your yard sometime, and see what's walking around your own yard. Yeah, I don't care if you live in the center of Fairhaven or out in the woods of Freetown, and put one of those motion activated. You'd be shocked to see what animals are actually walking around at night. You'd be really shocked.
This has been very, very interesting.
Yeah, I have a great job. I have
When are you writing your first book?
Maybe when I retire, when I have time. But in my job, I have a saying: I get to see people at their best, but I also get to see people at their worst. And I've been on dog abuse cases and houses that I was just recently in a house where I got some animals out of that. The Board of Health was there, and as I was leaving, they were putting a condemned sign on, and it was one of those houses where you look around, you can't even imagine people living there, and people live there daily, and the people are already gone, and you have to go in and take their animals, and it's a shame when you see people have to live like that. But my side of it, most ACOs don't have a shelter. I know Swansea has a shelter.
Yeah.
A couple of the, like Lakeville, a couple of and it's double my work. It's my work gets doubled. I'm not just an ACO, but I have to run a shelter too. But that's the part of it that I love. That's the part that I don't get burnt out on. I get to go and get these animals out of
and the rewards of many
hoarding cases and watch them develop and find homes. We recently, a couple of years ago, we had a German Shepherd that needed a $9,000 knee replacement. And when I said people at their best, when you ask people for money to do that, we had $9,000 in a week, and we got to see that dog get her new knee and then went on to a beautiful home.
Very beautiful.
And that's what I said, when you see people that are willing to give that much, and like I just mentioned with the cat litter, ask for cat litter. By the end of the day, I have 1,000 pounds of cat litter. And I love to see that part of. That's the best part of my job.
And it looks like you have been wonderful today. Thank you so much. We're going to have you come back. I'm sure you'd like to come back.
Anytime. Maybe I'll bring one of my volunteers with me.
That would be nice. I would really appreciate that. So we are wrapping up our 94th episode. It was a pleasure to meet Mr. Cripps again. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and have a wonderful week.